Have you ever been out on your Surron or Talaria and thought, I need Apple CarPlay? Honestly, me neither. But if I'm honest, that's because I didn't know you could get Apple CarPlay for a Surron. So when Carpuride asked me if I wanted to try one of their displays that is compatible with the Surron, I couldn't really turn it down. Plus, I'd be lying if I didn't see how cool this was on some other YouTube channels. Shout out Stingy Roger and South Coast Surron. So I guess let's take the Carpuride display out of the box and take a look at how we can get it to fit on this Surron. So this model right here is the Carpuride 603 Plus. There is some extra features that we're going to be getting inside of this box, so let's get it out and take a look at what it's all about. So it looks like we're going to have the display straight away, which we do. This thing looks absolutely massive. Taking out the display, looks like we've got some goodies underneath, and it looks like we've got a world of cables and stuff inside of this box. So let's have the display out. Then we've got the extra features. We've got one camera, we have got another camera, so we've got front and rear cameras with this unit, which I'll talk about later in the video. Then it looks like we've got some nuts and bolts and some other things to get the unit fitted onto the Surron. We've got what looks like some power cables and some other accessories that come along. So then taking a look at the display itself, like I say, it looks absolutely massive. That looks like how we're going to be attaching it to the bike, as well as some thumb controls. And at the end, here's going to be all the cables that we need to get this bike powered up. So without further ado, let's start taking a look at how we're going to fit this unit to the Surron. So as most people will know, the Surron does actually have a 12 volt USB port, and that is exactly what is going to be powering our Carpuride display. But we're going to need a USB connected to it to plug it in. That's why I have gone and got a USB cable with a positive and a negative on the end, already pre-cut, ready to be installed. As well as the USB cable, I've got some solder connectors which work with just a heat gun. These are going to be the connectors we use to join the wires together on the display to the USB. And then to keep the job tidy, I've also gone and got a multi-pack of heat shrink. If your bike doesn't come with a 12 volt USB port, you can still follow the same procedure, but you'll just need a 12 volt portable charger to power your Carpuride display. Let's take a look at getting this thing wired up. On the Carpuride system, there are 3 wires that we need to join to the 2 cables on the USB. They are coloured red, yellow and black. We're going to start by cutting the cables on the Carpuride system, which are the red and the yellow cables. Then we're going to strip the wire so there is bare cable showing. Now we can take the red cable from the USB and do the exact same. Then we want to slide over some heat shrink and also slide over a solder connector. Now you've added the solder connector, you can twist the 3 cables together. Once complete, slide the joiner over the exposed cables so the solder is in the centre of the exposed cables. This will then melt and join the cables together. Then simply add heat. Now we are left with a strong insulated and joined cable. Then finally add the heat shrink to cover up the joiner and also heat that up. Now that is complete, we can repeat the same system for the black or the negative cable. So again, it's a case of cut, strip, solder connector, heat shrink, another piece of heat shrink because the last one was too short, twist the cables together, slide over the solder connector, and once again add heat. Once again, we are left with a strong, fixed, soldered cable. Then finally add the heat shrink and the next piece of heat shrink, and then add more heat. And you can see here that the heat shrink literally does what it says on the tin. It shrinks over the cable, covering it all up. Then again with the second piece of heat shrink, just to make it long enough to fully cover the connector this time. And finally, we are done. So we now have the USB port completely wired up to the Carpuride system. I guess before we go finishing it off and dealing with this mess of wires, we're going to have to plug it in and see if it works. Okay, so the bike's now on, ready to go. We're going to get the USB, just plug it into the bike. That's the USB in. Do we have power? Oh yes we do, let's go. So it looks to me like that is now all going to power up. The wires did just drop on the screen, didn't turn off either, so I'm going to assume now that that is the unit all powered up and working. So now we know that the display works, we're going to have to tidy up these cables right here, get them looking alright, and then we've got all of this to deal with next, getting all of this installed onto the bike. So let's keep cracking on. So I've now completed covering up those cables as best as I could. To do this, I just wrapped electrical tape around it, then I wrapped loom tape around it, then we've gone over the top with even more heat shrink, so hence why the cable looks so fat, and then I've just electrical taped the ends to try and stop any wet getting in them, just in case it wanted to. It's not the most professional job, but it's definitely going to add some protection to that cable and make this easily compatible with the Surron. So now we've finished joining all the cables and have tidied them all up, it is now time to look at actually getting the display put on the handlebars of the Surron. And on the back of the display you will see that there is a rotational ball on the back of the display. With the Carpuride kit there is also this clamp which is going to go around the handlebars with another rotational ball on the back, as well as these two clamps, which are then going to go together to hold the two rotational balls. And then it also comes with a load of different rubbers to fit whatever size handlebars you're going to be fitting these units to, so the clamps don't scratch the handlebars. As well as those rubbers, it also comes with all the nuts and bolts needed to fit the kit to the Surron, as well as a few little handy tools that come along to obviously make some adjustments and do these nuts and bolts up. So our next job is to pick the bits out of this that we're going to be using to fit this to my Surron, and then actually get it put on the bike. To do this, I had to remove the handlebars from the bike. This was so I could get the clamp for the Carpuride around the handlebars. Now with the handlebars loosened up, I can get the clamp around the centre of the handlebars. Then I can make sure the clamp is nice and tight to the handlebars. Then I got the brackets for the Carpuride system and started to attach it to the clamp that holds it onto the handlebars. I got this tightened up so it didn't fall around on the clamp. Then with the display attached to the clamp, I tightened everything up so it wasn't going to move around whilst riding. And although there was movement, it did seem like a pretty sturdy job. And this is how the display looked once it was finally fitted. So next up, we are going to fit this rear view camera to the Surron. This is marked by rear on the cable on the yellow sticker, so we know that this one is for the back. It comes with a sticky adhesive pad that you can either stick to the bike, or me personally, as I want to remove this quite regularly because I won't always be riding with the CarPlay on, I'm actually going to use the two screw holes and I'm going to screw the camera up to the bottom of the bike. This is going to be the sturdiest way, in my opinion, to fix it to the bike, and it is also going to make it easily removable in the future. So let's screw this camera on. Okay, so the Carpuride 603 is finally completely set up. I've got the display on and it's in front of me. It's all running on the bike. Everything works as it should. So let's start riding and talk a bit about the Carpuride display and the ins and outs of the installation, the features, and who this display would be for in the sort of Surron community. So to start with the installation and how difficult it actually was, it seems a lot more difficult than it actually was to get the task done, if you know what I mean by that. I did actually think it was going to be a bit more of a technical task than it turned out to be. Using those connectors really helped, the ones that I used earlier in the video. So if you do buy this unit for yourself and you're looking at a way to wire it up the same as I did, honestly, just buy those connectors and your life will be so much easier. If you've got a little hairdryer or a heat gun, get those heat up solder connectors. So again, I'm not a very technical person when it comes to wiring and electrics like that. That is the first sort of major bit of wiring really that I've had to do to this bike. Everything else has just been plug and play. There's nothing I've had to tap into like that, and it was dead easy. Honestly, I found it so easy to get the task actually done. And then in terms of the other installations, such as the hardware and the camera, well, as you've seen in the video, it was quite a simple process. Everything is just a bolt-on job. Basically, the rear camera I did have to screw into the bike again, just because I wanted it removable if I stuck it on the bike. But now let's talk about the actual features and the specs of this Carpuride Apple CarPlay unit for the Surron, or for many other motorbikes. So first things first, let's talk about the thing that's right in front of your face, and that is the thing that you genuinely can't miss. It's this massive display in front of me, and this is a 6.3 inch display. As you can hopefully see on the camera, it is bright, it is colourful, it is vibrant. I really like the display, but just the size of the thing. This thing is perfect. If you need to know where you're going and you've got maps open on this thing, you're never going to miss a turn. So as well as the display being massive right in front of your face, colourful, vibrant, and everything else that I just said, it is also touchscreen, and it is quite a responsive touchscreen, considering I'm wearing gloves that aren't actually meant to work with touchscreen but somehow do. The screen is really responsive, which is exactly what you want. So I can quite easily go on maps. Again, with the touch of the button, I can quite easily go to the home screen. It is really easy to navigate this screen even with gloves on. And again, you can just see by me swiping a finger, even when I'm riding along with gloves on, it's responsive. The graphics on the actual display are really good as well. There's no real lagging or anything like that. The screen is smooth, everything is, like I say, it's responsive and reactive. It's exactly what you'd want from this sort of screen. As well as it being touchscreen, it does have the thumb controls that you would have seen me fit earlier in the video. These are just a few buttons that you can press, and these will take you to the home page, back to the CarPlay page, and again do a few other functions. It will take a photo for some reason. and then it will go back to the rear view camera. So you got thumb buttons there that are going to help out with navigating and using this display on your rides. So this Carpuride system does come with Apple CarPlay and the interface for the Androids as well. So whether you have an iPhone or if you have an Android, you can still use this display and it's compatible with both. The system does come with a front and rear camera, as we've seen earlier in the video, and the reason I didn't put the front camera on the bike is I didn't have anything that I wanted to fix it to with the screws, and I did try and stick it to the bike. I tried to stick it on top of my headlight, but straight away it came off. The stick did not want to stick to the top of my headlight. I imagined that the headlight, because we were outside and it was getting a bit moist in the air, had a bit of moisture on top of the headlight, so I decided I wasn't going to put the front camera on. I personally am never going to use the front camera. Yes, for some people it would be handy if you're using your bike to commute or on the road and it is a road legal Surron, then yes, you might possibly want that front camera fitted, but me personally, there's no need for the front camera. However, the rear camera I do have a purpose for, and one of my purposes for the rear camera, in fact, let's flick to the rear camera screen right now. So that on the screen, if you can see that, in fact, let's stop just quickly. That on the screen right there, that is the rear camera. You can see my hand at the back of the bike. It's my orange gloves. There's a few reasons why I love the fact that this does come with a front and a rear camera setup, and the reason I love the rear camera especially is if you were to use this as an on-road vehicle, this bike doesn't come with mirrors. To be ridden on the road, you probably would have to fit mirrors anyway, but it's just another way of having a rear view mirror on the bike without having to turn your head. You can see exactly what's behind you. You can see what the car behind you would be doing. You can even see what pedestrians behind you are doing. On these Surrons, you need to have your eyes and head at 360 degrees at all times to make sure that you are safe, whether it be riding or from members of the public who just aren't very nice. So it is a great thing that this bike has a rear camera. The other reason I like having this rear camera is when I'm riding with friends, I'm constantly turning around to see if people behind me are okay, or if they're still following me, or if there's been a problem. Seems like every 5 to 10 seconds I'm constantly turning around. If I'm at the front of the group, I'm awful. So having this rear view camera for me is actually a massive bonus. I'm not going to have to keep turning around to check out who's behind me, what's behind me, even on tracks and trails. I can constantly see what is behind me just at the flick of a button, and it's actually a really good quality camera. I believe it's 1080p. The quality is as good as you would need for just a visual rear view camera, but this isn't just a visual rear view camera, and neither is the front camera. The cameras on this display unit are constantly recording. So from the minute you get on the bike, turn the bike on, the cameras are in action. That is it, they are filming. Then you can go back and you can look at all your previous footage on the bike, all on this screen. It does have a built-in TF card, so it will store so much of the footage, and you can even take photos on the front and rear camera. So essentially this front and rear camera system is a full dash cam setup. So like any other CarPlay, you do have the ability to access the phone, music, maps, messages, your Apple Music. It has got the smart screen app on here, which takes you just back to the home screen. You've also got podcast, audiobooks, the date, you've got settings in there as well. I've got my car scanner app for some reason, but I imagine that would be helpful if you had this plugged into a car. So you can actually go on messages and you can go on WhatsApp, and the device will actually read back messages to you. I think if you don't have a headset plugged in, then it will just come through your phone, I imagine, because there's no built-in speaker. So then, speaking of headphones, that then leads me on to my favourite feature about the Carpuride, and this is going to be the feature that I personally use the most when having this display plugged in and set up, and that is the fact you can open up Spotify through the Carpuride. And then if you have some sort of headset, whether it be headphones like AirPods or an actual headset set up in your helmet like I do, I've got a little Bluetooth audio headset set up inside of my helmet, so I've got speakers in the actual helmet and then this device on the outside that connects to the Bluetooth, so I can then turn on my Bluetooth headset and it would automatically connect to the Carpuride system just straight through my phone. So I kind of get it. A lot of you are probably thinking, why does it make a difference if you've got a massive display with Spotify in front of you compared to just having Spotify on your phone with the headset plugged in? And to be honest, okay, yeah, you don't really need it, but it is actually really nice to have it in front of your face for when you do want to change song, or you do just want to see a bit of information about the song you're listening to. Yes, I can do this with my headset and everything is on the helmet, but again, when you're riding along, it is actually easier just to click a button that's right in front of you than get your hand up to your helmet and try and fiddle with the buttons that come along on the Bluetooth headset module. And so who do I think this Carpuride unit would suit best in terms of customers? Who's going to be the people that are going to want to be buying this sort of unit? And it's quite obvious that the people that would actually benefit from buying this Carpuride system and should look into buying it are the road users, people who have road legal Surrons that use it for commuting. Whether it's a Surron or not, you can put this unit on basically any bike, and I'm sure that Carpuride make other units that fit on other bikes as well. I know they make a whole range for the BMW motorcycles, so it is not just Surrons, it is a load of other bikes that these things are made for. And even the fact that you can wire it up to a 12-volt system like you've seen, we did it through USB, but it can be done through the actual battery as well. I think this is really for the road users and the commuters, or even the people like me who occasionally like to go on those long distance rides. I like to sit and cruise at 15-20 mile an hour, not thrashing it, just enjoying the scenery, trying to get as far as I possibly can that day. This screen is perfect for that. And in general, I'm just a bit of a techie and a nerdy guy. I do like a cool gadget. For me, trying out this product made sense, seeing as I do like a little electronic gadget here and there. And then there is actually a few things that I think the Carpuride brand could actually improve on. The first thing that really bugs me is how the display actually mounts to the bike. I just think there's no need for it to stick up as high as it actually does. It would look a much nicer and more professional fitted job if this screen was just a little bit lower in between the middle of the handlebars. The other thing I'd like to see them improve is how long the cables are on this system. Again, I know that people are going to be using this for other types of motorcycle, and it's not just for the Surrons, Talarias or e-bikes, etc. But again, for where all the cables are and for where they're positioned, it'd be nicer if they were just a bit shorter, so it was easier to hide them around the bike and route them through the bike, so you haven't got so much cable to hide. And it would be nicer if there was just a cleaner option and a much neater option for the people that are temporarily fitting this screen to the bike, who are going to want to remove it and put it on the bike as they please. And then to finalise the features and the specs of this Carpuride system, it is basically waterproof. It has a really high waterproofing rating, so you can ride this thing no problems in the rain. So then what is this CarPlay system going to set you back if you wanted to buy one for your Surron, Talaria or motorcycle? The price listed on the website for these is £320 or $300 if you're in the States, which really for that price I don't think is too bad, considering you're getting a whole electronic screen that realistically isn't that bad. The quality of it's very good, the touch response and everything is up to scratch, and the motion and everything is spot on. I think that £320 is justified, especially when you take into the fact you get the front and the rear camera as well. These things are probably really inexpensive little additions, but when you're buying the unit and you're getting both front and back cameras and everything you need to set it up, minus the things that I used to actually wire it into the bike, then really it's not too bad. Plus, Carpuride is one of these sites where you go on the website and there always seems to be a sale on. So I think the last time I looked, it was on sale for £228. Not sure what that would be in dollars, but for £228, it's an even better deal. So now we've been through all of the specs and all of the features of the Carpuride 603D. I'm going to use it for what it's intended for. Let's get the tunes on and enjoy the music. So if you have enjoyed this review of the Carpuride CarPlay system and you want to take a look for yourself, The link for the product will be down below in the description of this video, and if you do decide that you want to buy a CarPlay system for yourself, then my affiliate link will also be down below in the description. So if you do buy a product, buy it through the link. It will help my channel out when you do make a purchase, and if you do make a purchase, I appreciate it. With all that said and done, if you have liked this video on the Apple CarPlay system, which I bet looks really cool now it's really dark and you can't see anything, make sure you leave a thumbs up and leave a comment down below on what you think of the Apple CarPlay system. If you're new to the channel, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. I've been Matt Francis signing out. Peace.